Hello there, my name is Diana Kolesnik and now we'll unveil the top news of recent days. After his peace tour, Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban wrote a letter to the head of the European Council, Charles Michel, proposing to restore diplomatic relations with the Russian Federation, according to Bild. Early after his travels to Ukraine, the Russian Federation and China, Orban informed EU leaders of the results of his peacekeeping mission and Budapest peaceful proposals. Prime Minister Balázs, Orban's political director, said in an interview with the Hungarian pro-government newspaper Magyar Nemzet. Balázs Orban said that from the Hungarian Prime Minister's trips to Kyiv and Moscow, it became clear that Ukraine and Russia are very determined to fight, and without the intervention of external mediators, we will unfortunately see very violent destruction in the coming months, he said. Viktor Orban also believes that the role of Hungary as a mediator should not be underestimated, since in his opinion the country can play a serious role in mediation. At the same time, the legal service of the European Union previously established that the Hungarian Prime Minister's negotiations with Putin contradict EU treaties. Perhaps this is why the EU foreign ministers intend to boycott the summit in Hungary and hold their own political reports. As journalists learned, the foreign ministers of the European Union countries have invented an original way to boycott the Foreign Affairs Summit from August the 28th to the 29th. The summit will be hosted by Hungary, which holds the presidency of the EU Council. 3 EU diplomats with direct knowledge of the plan who requested anonymity told the publication that EU Foreign Policy Chief Josep Borrell would involve ministers to an official Foreign Affairs Council in parallel with Orban's summit. The plan has already been informally approved by several EU countries, including France and Germany, and Borrell's team will discuss it with the EU's 27 permanent representatives tomorrow. Moreover, 63 members of the European Parliament demand that the leadership of the European Union deprive Hungary of the right to vote in the EU due to the actions of the Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban. The text of the letter was obtained by Politico. The members of the European Parliament addressed their letter to the head of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, the President of the European Council, Charles Michel, and the head of the European Parliament, Roberta Metsola. In it, they stated that the Prime Minister of Hungary has already caused significant damage by exploiting and abusing the role of chairman of the Council. In particular, he deliberately distorted his powers during visits to Russia and China. The last petrol ship of the Russian Navy left the Ukrainian Crimea. This was reported by Dmytro Platanchuk, Public Affairs Officer of the Navy of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. Moreover, Ukraine is targeting Crimea, a critical base for Russia's invasion. Newly armed with deep-strike missiles, Kyiv is degrading Russian abilities on the peninsula, aiming at airfields, air defenses and logistics hubs. Russia used the occupied Crimean Peninsula first as a launchpad for its full-scale invasion and then as a staging ground for routine aerial bombardments. Ukraine, now armed with American-made precision missiles, is for the first time capable of reaching every corner of Crimea. It is a new strategic push as Kyiv seeks to raise the cost for Russian occupation forces that have alone used the peninsula as a base of operations just off Ukraine's southern coast. While it is unlikely to have much effect on the frontline Ukraine's campaign with the long-range version systems ATACMS, appears meant to force the Kremlin to make difficult choices about where to deploy some of its most valuable air defenses to protect critical military infrastructure. Since the arrival of the ATACMS this spring, the Ukrainian military destroyed or damaged at least 15 Russian long-range air defense systems in Crimea. Among those are the powerful S-300 and S-400 batteries, Moscow's version of the American Patriot air defense system. Over the past 3 months, commercial satellite imagery examined by military analysts has confirmed that damage to Russian radar installations, electronic warfare assets, logistics routes and airfields. Crimea holds deep political, symbolic and military value for Putin, who has called it Russia's holy land, placing it at the center of his false narrative that Ukraine is part of Russia. Since illegally annexing Crimea in 2014, Moscow has heavily invested in expanding its military footprint. From Sevastopol in the west to the Kerch in the east, military installations have been spotted dotting both coastal areas and hidden with mountainous enclaves. Used to create an image of Russia as a great power, the Kremlin has also poured resources into making it a tourist destination. Crimea helps to sustain the Russian occupation in south of Ukraine and is packed with land-based missile systems used to target Ukrainian cities and towns. Penetrating Russia's robust air defenses remain challenging, but this summer Ukraine was able to launch the same kind of assault aimed at overwhelming and confusing the air defenses that it has been defending against for years. In an attack starting on May the 29th, Ukraine used domestically produced air and sea drones, Western cruise missiles, and ATACMS to overwhelm advanced Russian air defenses, the Ukrainian military and intelligence services said. Continued attacks on Russian air defenses could force Moscow to move some warplanes from Crimea or risk losing more aircraft, the British military intelligence agency reported. We are pressing the Biden administration to lift restrictions to extend the campaign and target air bases deep inside Russia, limiting the number of places Russian bombers can find sanctuary.
We also destroyed the launches of Russian missiles that had been hitting Kharkiv for more than 2 years on a daily basis. And this gave Kharkiv protection from missile strikes. Imagine how much we can achieve when all limitations are lifted. Similarly, now we can protect our cities from Russian glide bombs if American leadership makes a step forward and allow us to destroy Russian military aircraft on their bases. This is also yield an instant result, and we are waiting for this step. And we can significantly limit Russian action in southern Ukraine and push the occupier out of there if American leadership assists us with the necessary deep strike capabilities against Russian military and logistics in our Ukrainian Crimea. Volodymyr Zelensky during the speech in Ronald Reagan President's Foundation and Institute.
F-16 fighter jets provided by the West are expected to start flying in the skies above Ukraine in limited numbers this summer, but their effectiveness would be limited if Russia's air defenses remained intact. Russia has responded to the uptick in attacks on Crimea by bringing in air defense systems from Kaliningrad and other parts of the country, according to Ukrainian and Western officials. The Kremlin also dispatched its S-500 Prometheus air defense system to the battlefield for the first time, the head of Ukraine's military intelligence agency, General Kirill Budanov, told reporters last month. But Ukraine shows no sign of slowing its campaign in Crimea, and residents there who were reached by secure messaging apps said the usual summer crowds of tourists were noticeably thinner. Just remember, Ukrainian land will return to Ukraine. Putin signed a number of laws, among them an increase in taxes and increase in social support for citizens by 522 billion rubles. Vladimir Putin signed a number of laws relating to taxation of the population. The changes affected, among other things, the tourism industry as well as tobacco traders. In addition, new budget parameters for 2024 are being introduced. Thus, Putin signed laws on allowing local authorities to introduce a tourist tax from 2025, on increasing the corporate income tax from 20% to 24%, on indexing excise taxes on tobacco products and alcohol by 4%. In the next 3 years, on increasing from 2025 year, mineral extraction tax on diamonds, iron ore, and a number of other minerals, on the approval of amendments to the budget for 2024, which increase social support for citizens, on the establishment of the profit tax for IT companies at 4% in 2025-2030, on introduction from 2025 of a progressive personal income tax scale with rates from 13% to 22%. When he announced the tax hike in March, Putin called its goal a more equitable distribution of the tax burden. Now, Finance Minister Anton Siluanov said that there is a steady demand in society for social justice, including a progressive tax scale, which according to him is confirmed by Sociological Service. Kremlin sources have talked about fairness in the context of taxes starting in 2020, but the parameters of the proposed reform are largely at odds with these words. In Russia, even low-income families will still pay taxes, although they will receive relief. For parents with 2 or more children, the tax will actually be 6%. But most importantly, the rich and super rich earn their main income not in the form of salaries, but in the form of dividends, income from deposits and securities. The progressive scale will not affect all of these incomes, writes the Bell. The state will receive the main income from tax increases not from citizens but from business. The Ministry of Finance estimates the volume of additional income at 2.6 trillion rubles. As they say pro-Russian experts, sanctions are not working and the Kremlin's economy is strong. Why pass such laws then? That concludes today's video. Thank you for watching. Stay updated, comment, like and subscribe to our UATV English channel for more news from Ukraine. Your support really matters. Goodbye.